welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're breaking down the last propeller ace. It's a tactical breakdown of one of the most gritty, genuinely ironic military clashes of the entire 20th century. Forget the pristine, high-tech dogfights you've seen in the movies, all right? This is a story of burning metal, jet fuel, and a desperation so deep that the military literally had to reach back into the past just to survive the present. Okay, let's dive into this. Imagine flying a state-of-the-art jet fighter and getting shot down by a broken lawnmower. Picture the sheer tension of that reality for a second. You're strapped into the absolute peak of modern military aviation. You've got blistering speed, cutting-edge tech, infinite funding, and suddenly your dominance is completely neutralized by a threat that literally sounds like a broken piece of gardening equipment puttering through the pitch-black night sky. I mean, no way, right? But this isn't a hypothetical. This actually happened, and it completely shattered conventional military wisdom. So, to understand how we got there, we really have to look at this massively embarrassing problem the US military was facing during the Korean War. Every single night, under the cover of absolute darkness, North Korean pilots would fly these ancient, primitive biplanes right over US bases. They called these nighttime intruders bed-check Charlies. Now, these planes were not powerful, they definitely weren't advanced, but they used the pitch-black sky to their advantage, just putting along invisibly. They kept troops awake, completely shredded base morale, and crucially, they were destroying millions of dollars in highly valuable US equipment. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the sheer irony of the situation. The US naturally sent their state-of-the-art jets up to stop these intruders. And the result? Total disaster. It turns out the modern jets were actually too fast. The biplanes flew so incredibly low and so agonizingly slow that advanced jet radar was completely useless. When the jet pilots tried to hit the brakes and match their speed to engage, well, their modern engines simply stalled, accidentally crashing million-dollar machinery straight into jagged hillsides. The world's most advanced military was effectively being bullied by flying kites. So the cutting-edge tech had completely failed. The Goliath of the modern era was useless here. That's when the Navy deployed a top-secret weapon, Guy Bordelon, and his ride, a leftover World War II F-4U Corsair named Mower. This thing was a massive piston-engine beast, a total heavy metal relic compared to the sleek jet fighters of the era. But, you know, sometimes when you're fighting the past, you've got to bring out a piece of the past to actually do it. And this brilliantly illustrates why Mower was so perfectly suited for this environment. Under the hood, she was essentially a flying, heavily armed tank. She was packed with a primitive but highly effective radar system and 4 devastating 20mm cannons. But her absolute ultimate weapon for this specific fight? Low-speed agility. She was agile enough to hug the terrain and slow enough to actually hunt the biplanes in the dark without stalling out and dropping from the sky. But having the right machine is really only half the battle, right? You still have to execute the mission under absolutely terrifying conditions. Remember, this is 1953. There is no GPS. Just picture the terrifying reality of this mid-air crawl. Bordelon is sitting there in a dimly lit cockpit, and the only illumination is coming from glowing green and orange analog dials reflecting right in his goggles. He's flying completely blind through the pitch black, over jagged, snow-capped mountains. Guided only by that primitive radar screen and his own 2 eyes, he has to exactly match the agonizingly slow speed of his targets. One wrong maneuver, one tiny slip of the throttle, and he hits a mountain. But Bordelon and Mower were perfectly matched for this deadly game. On June 29th, flying blind, he spots 2 targets. He dives, matches their crawl, and just obliterates them. A few nights later, 2 more down. The so-called lawnmower men were suddenly the prey. And then on July 17th, he intercepts his 5th. 5. That is the magic number. Securing that 5th kill in just a matter of a few short weeks wasn't just a successful mission, it elevated him to absolute legendary status. In the world of combat aviation, getting 5 confirmed kills officially crowns you a flying ace. Which brings us to the astonishing legacy of this whole tactical pivot. Guy Bordelon became the only US Navy ace of the entire Korean War. Just let that sink in for a second. While the million-dollar jets were stalling out and crashing into hillsides trying to fight flying kites, a pilot in a dated World War II Relic completely mastered the mid-air crawl. And by doing so, he not only became the sole Navy ace of that conflict, but he earned the lasting title of the final American propeller-driven ace in history. So, the crucial point is, it all boils down to a profound tactical truth. When the enemy is putting along in the weeds, you don't need a spaceship to catch a turtle. You send a slightly faster turtle.
It's kind of funny, yeah? But it's an absolutely brilliant military doctrine. Speed and technological superiority are entirely relative to the specific threat you are facing. You simply do not send a cheetah to catch a turtle.
Which leaves us with this final thought as we wrap up today's explainer. Do we too often assume newer automatically means better on the battlefield? Guy Bordelon and Annie Moe prove that sometimes the most advanced state-of-the-art solution is actually a massive liability. Sometimes the exact right tool for the job is the heavy metal relic you thought you left behind. It really makes you rethink our basic assumptions about what technological superiority actually looks like in practice, doesn't it? Thanks for joining.